Welcome to Managing Marriage and Money, a seminar on romance and the business of life. Like it or not, romance does eventually have a business side, especially if the romance turns to marriage. In this seminar, we'll consider 4 topics: current research on marriage and money, communication styles, blending differences, shared beliefs and values, financial agreements. I have take-home worksheets designed to give you and your spouse a process to follow to build strong communication systems and financial agreements. What I have to share with you today is not flashy, but I can assure you it's much easier than you might think to minimize the confusion and emotions money can cause you so you have more time to enjoy life together. This Worksite Financial Solutions seminar is offered through your employer and your retirement plan advisor. Worksite Financial Solutions is a guidance-based, beginning-to-end retirement solution designed to help you create confidence in your financial life. The Worksite Suite offerings includes workplace education that's tailored to your unique needs and profile. It's also supported by a qualified LPL financial advisor who's committed to providing you with unified, coordinated advice. Whether you're joining the plan for the first time, accumulating assets, or seeking help with a career transition, Worksite Financial Solutions pulls all aspects of your finances into a single, manageable focus that will help you save time. Money can't buy love, but love may bring you money, if you're married, that is. If you Google the 2 words money and marriage, you get an overwhelming percentage of negative articles. Most of them are about how to avoid the biggest financial pitfalls that cause marital destruction. If you're not careful, you can easily buy into the notion that money's always difficult in a marriage and is the leading cause of divorce. I think you'll agree that money is an unavoidable part of building a life together. Money is a private topic. Talking about money makes people uncomfortable, even if they're talking about it with their spouse. All of this could become a breeding ground for conflict, and it sometimes does. But it doesn't have to be. Fortunately, there's a way to get clear money agreements that both spouses are committed to and comfortable with, and it's not rocket science. The money topic in marriage is actually quite easily managed and can even be something that strengthens a marriage. Let's start with some good news for marriage and married couples. 1. A study completed out of Ohio State University's Center for Human Resource Research found that being married increases an individual's wealth above and beyond that of 2 single people. Singles accumulated about $11,000 of wealth in 10 years, and people who got married and stayed married accumulated about $43,000 in 10 years. 2. The next one is no surprise. Consumer debt causes tension, which leads to more arguing, and not just about money. That leads to spending less time together. 3. The opposite also makes sense. More assets lead to a sense of security and well-being, decreased fighting, and increased overall satisfaction. 4. And finally, husbands typically think the family income and wealth are greater than their wives think they are, and wives think the family debt's greater than their husbands think it is. And both husbands and wives tend to think their spouses earn less than they say they do. In other words, husbands and wives tend to see their personal financial worlds differently. Now let's talk about you for a minute. What is the greatest source of tension in your marriage? If you're like most married couples, the answer is money. The same researcher who tracked the different ways husbands and wives see their financial world also found that money was the #1 source of arguments. In the 30-year national longitudinal surveys he used for his research, money was the #1 source of arguments in all but 1 year during the late 90s, when it took second place to chores. If you ask a marriage therapist, they'll likely tell you that money isn't the root of the problem, but rather, the root of the problem is said to be a lack of communication. Sounds just like a therapist, doesn't it? But it also sounds true. Another interesting finding in The State of Our Unions, an annual publication produced by the National Marriage Project at the University of Virginia, found that thrifty couples were the happiest. That is, couples who have turned away from spending money they don't have and towards saving money around which they can build a shared future together appear well positioned to enjoy more than a healthy bank account. It's pretty clear that money, or communication about money, can be problematic in a marriage. But what about the good news? What about that works? What's a predictor of success in a marriage when it comes to money? Well, just like that therapist would say, open and respectful communication is key. It also helps to have shared beliefs and values. Opposites might attract, but when it comes to opposite beliefs and values, there could be trouble ahead. If you and your partner have vastly different values, that could be a recipe for tension. It shouldn't be a surprise that for money and marriage to work, there should be agreements and systems in place. Both parties should work as hard as necessary to cultivate good habits, and both parties should adhere to whatever policies were decided upon and keep all agreements made. Communication is the key that opens many locked doors in a marriage. Agreements, policies, systems, they all come out of positive, open, calm communication. Once the doors are open, compromise becomes possible. And once compromise and mutually comfortable agreements are possible, the marriage can be on the road to success. Let's delve deeper into what good communication looks like. We'll start with communication in your marriage. This question refers to talking one-on-one about any topic, not just money. How much time do you and your spouse spend talking every day? 5 minutes per day is what was found in one study. So if couples don't spend much time talking to each other about anything, it makes sense they'd naturally avoid tough topics like money, unless it's really necessary. And by then, the situation's usually emotionally charged and urgent. Clearly, communication about money is an area that needs to be specially addressed in a marriage. Why do you think that it's so difficult to talk about money? Why do you think most people have such a hard time with it? Here are 10 common answers. It always seems to be a negative or explosive topic. We get so little time together, why spend it fighting? I don't like being told what I can do and what I cannot do with money. We just don't agree on money. He or she never listens to me anyway. Money brings out the worst in us. My parents never talked about money. My parents always fought about money. We don't talk about it because we don't have any money to talk about. We earn separately and keep our money separate. We don't talk about it because we don't have money issues. Did I miss anything? Anyone want to add anything? Here's one that we financial advisors hear often, and though it sounds like it must be a joke, it's not. When asked why talking about money is so difficult, we usually get one of the 10 common answers. But when you peel away the anger or frustration that comes from the answer, what you begin to understand, and what many people finally admit, is that they simply don't know how to talk about money. And that's great, because as they say, admitting you have a problem is the first step to solving it. The next step is to figure out your own and your spouse's communication style. Fortunately, we have a tool for that because it's not as easy as you might think to get a clear understanding of even your own communication style, let alone your spouse's. We usually just know that we feel uncomfortable, agitated, bored, or frustrated, but we don't know why or what to do about it. In addition, we all have both hardwired and learned communication tendencies and preferences. When we're stressed, our socialized communication style can disappear, leaving the hardwired tendencies to rule the moment. That may or may not be good. Like beliefs and values about money, it's extra challenging in a marriage when communication styles don't match up well. The upside is that you can do something about it. If you and your spouse have the same communication style, more power to you. But if you don't, there's a lot that can be done. The first order of business is bridge building. You want to build a communication bridge between your differences without making either one of you right or wrong. I repeat, without making either one of you right or wrong. We each have preferred communication styles, which we'll get more into in a moment. But on a more general level, we each have a socialized style, which is what we use to accommodate other people's style. And we each have a hardwired style. As you might imagine, the hardwired style is the set of old patterns and behaviors we revert to when we're pressured, stressed, or confused. Let's see how bridge building works with two people who could very well have different socialized and hardwired styles. If spouses have different hardwired communication styles, life can go quite smoothly when there's no conflict, pressure, or frustration in the home. However, when stress starts to build, the differences in style can collide and make communication difficult. What should you do if that's the case? The answer to what to do is more straightforward than you might think. First, discover your own communication style. Fortunately, we have a tool for that, which we'll look at in a moment. Next, discover your spouse's preferences. Finally, build a bridge to accommodate and connect your different styles, especially when you talk about money. Let me walk you through these steps while we're here together. The handouts I'll give you at the end include a worksheet for you to use at home with your spouse. Let's figure out your communication style and that of your spouse. Personal finance is a very private topic, one we usually don't share with many people in our life outside of our spouse and financial advisor. Personal discussion about our money is considered a private topic in our culture, and we don't get much practice talking about it outside of our marriage. Meanwhile, inside the marriage, it can be an emotional and sometimes explosive topic. It's rare that we get to discover how to have comfortable and productive money conversations. Take advantage of this and spend a few minutes reviewing this chart of communication preferences. Think about what you need to feel comfortable, productive, and safe. What is your preference for receiving information? How do you prefer to make decisions? The objective is to understand how you, as a couple, can make the time you spend together discussing your finances more comfortable and productive. Now that you've had some time to get a feel for where we're going with this exercise, I'll give some examples of how to use your discoveries. Dan and Elaine are stuck in a negative pattern. They frustrate each other and argue over most financial decisions. She says he takes forever to make a decision, and he says she's impulsive and impatient. They each think the other threatens their well-being. They begin their money talks expecting the worst, and it usually goes the way it's always gone. They leave angry and decisions don't get made. When they looked at the communication preferences matrix, they recognized each other's style immediately. Dan's style is, give me the details, allow me time to process, and remember, I need time to analyze. Elaine's style is, give me the facts and let's make a decision. To have a successful meeting and continue that success when they get back home, Dan and Elaine need to build a bridge and find a new way to do this part of their life. From now on, before they're going to meet, Dan will get the detailed information on his own or from Elaine with enough advance time to process and analyze. He'll tell her how much time he needs. When they meet, Elaine wants bullet point facts and a concise overview of the main points. She assumes Dan will be ready to make a decision. They agree they need to allow time to discuss compromises when they disagree. Here's another example. Jeff and Amy both get triggered when they have to talk about financial decisions. When he's stressed, he speaks quickly. When he thinks she's not listening, he raises his voice. She freezes up when he starts to speak quickly. She expects him to yell, and then that's all she thinks about. It's coming, I know it is. That's all that's in her head. She's not paying attention. At this point, both won out of the conversation. Why wouldn't they? Again, they were aware of their differences, but they never thought that maybe differences aren't so rare, and maybe there's a way to deal with them. Amy requested that Jeff slow down and not raise his voice. She said she needs time to see the options. Meanwhile, Jeff requested that Amy get to the point quickly and let him know she's listening and understands. In preparation for a meeting, Jeff will consider the options and not just his opinion of what the couple should do. Amy will make herself a list to consolidate her questions, concerns, and her opinions. During a meeting, Jeff will try to slow down and not raise his voice. Amy will be prepared to give him her bottom line thinking, concerns, and ideas. If she needs more time, they'll schedule a follow-up meeting to review the options before making a decision. By following this plan, each person's style is validated and accommodated. No one is right or wrong. Instead, they're simply working toward having the most effective and efficient meeting and respecting each other's wishes. Now that you have a tool to build a communication bridge, let's talk about the topics that can help you understand each other better and form agreements. You and your spouse will benefit from taking a look at your individual and shared beliefs and values regarding money. As I've mentioned, shared beliefs and values are common denominators of successful marriages. Start with your own money story. We all have a money story. It starts before we're in kindergarten and consciously or unconsciously influences our money behaviors, expectation, and decisions today. It's formed by direct and indirect messages you've received from your family, friends, relatives, and community. These messages helped formulate how your family talked about money, how they got it, and how they spent it. What was your family's money story? How did your family talk about money? Spend money? Where did money come from? What's your spouse's money story? You and your spouse have a money story that influences your financial and life decisions. Chances are that your stories are different, and understanding them may explain current behaviors. We know that couples with compatible values and beliefs regarding money have an easier time managing their financial world. Completing the statement, "The purpose of money is," can give you insights into the values and beliefs you have about money. Some will say the purpose of money is freedom to make your own choices. Others might say it's for security, for yourself and your family. A revision of a famous Gilded Age statement is another example of a statement of money beliefs and values. The purpose of business is to make money. The purpose of money is to do good. Take a few moments to take a first swing at completing the purpose of money statement. Share this exercise with your spouse and compare your statements. Beliefs and values show up in the four main areas of money management: spending, saving, investing, and sharing. It can be illuminating, eye-opening, and maybe confirming to use these four categories to explore your beliefs in action. Take one category at a time. Talk about your thoughts and expectations with your spouse. Don't be surprised if you find areas of disagreement. It's normal and usually fairly easy to work through. Couples rarely even think about doing this type of exercise, so surprises are likely to pop up. If you find the exercise helpful, as many others have, it might be helpful to go into depth with one topic a week. Give yourself time to think about some of the questions that come up, read articles from experts, and talk to your financial advisor. The questions shown here are samples. You'll have your own questions right now, and probably new ones over time. Life is anything but static. Finally, you and your spouse should create written financial agreements clarifying intentions, responsibilities, and expectations. Documents give you a concrete place to return to when your plans aren't working. Sounds nice and tidy, doesn't it? It's a relatively foolproof system. The only problem is that very few couples will take the time to write things down, and then when plans aren't working, everyone goes back to their memories of agreements, and then things unravel at an exponential pace from there. The lesson? Write down your intentions, responsibilities, and expectations. It might take some time now, but it'll save you the time spent arguing later. Also, when you have things written down, it actually decreases the time it takes for you to make decisions. Psychologists use the term decision fatigue for what happens to us as the day goes on. Apparently, we have a finite amount of willpower to make good decisions throughout the day. By the time we hit mid-morning, our willpower is running low, and we begin to experience mental fatigue, decision fatigue. Once we eat lunch, we replenish and recover, but the afternoon zaps us again. We eat dinner and recover, but then we have physical fatigue from the day, never really get back to the decision-making abilities we had in the morning. But if we had a written agreement of the types of decisions we'll make, decision fatigue, even if we have it, is a non-issue. Developing systems and agreements that are easy to follow and automated as much as possible take a lot of the decision out of decision-making. It's also a good idea to have important discussions in the morning whenever possible. The best practice suggestion is to take time to create your written agreements now. Do it once and as completely as you can. It might take some time and not be that much fun, but it's worth it for the time, confusion, and disappointment it'll save you in the future. It won't be perfect, but it will be an excellent foundation to build and rebuild as life does what it does, change. Of course, I wouldn't leave you without giving you some examples of topics you might want to include in your financial agreements. This chart contains some of the important areas of a couple's financial world that works best with shared agreements. It's productive to clarify what's working well, where you need some adjustments, and where you sometimes need a reality check. When developing written agreements, you have 4 questions to answer. What are we agreeing to? How will we put this agreement into action? How should we establish accountability to each other? What difference will it make in our lives if we're successful with this agreement? These questions are just one more step to help your agreement stick. After you compare your responses to the financial agreement chart, run each agreement you make through these 4 questions. They can help you make each agreement with your heart and in your mind. And don't forget to write down your responses. When you're having a moment of confusion or frustration, they'll help you remember what to do and why. Remember that when romance happens, financial lives get connected. And that connection can be successful or not, depending on how you handle it. How you handle it involves your communication style and that of your partner. It also involves shared beliefs and values. And to create the best climate for good decision-making that benefits the couple, financial agreements are a must. When life gets turbulent or takes a sudden turn in a new direction, I hope you'll anchor yourself using the tools of romance and the business of life. Each tool has its purpose and benefits, and together they can form a solid foundation to keep you safe and moving toward your hopes and dreams.